Balance is key to the existence of this world that we live in. Tip the scales one way or the other and the damage begins. Hello and welcome, I'm Sadhika Tiwari and you're watching Eco India. In today's episode, let's try to understand this balance and what happens when the equilibrium is disrupted by, let's say, too many chemicals in the soil, for example, or too much technology, even if it is green. And how does all of this impact human lives? India is an agricultural powerhouse, and yet its contribution to the country's economy has been rapidly declining. And there have been several factors that have contributed to this decline. One of them is soil degradation caused by monoculture, intense tillage, and excessive use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. And this is threatening rural livelihoods across the country. Many farm families still struggle for 2 square meals a day despite technological advances. We visited a village on the outskirts of Delhi where a social enterprise is helping farmers regenerate the environment and make a profit.
It is time for this fenugreek to be harvested. We're in Palle village on the outskirts of Delhi. A lot has changed for farmers out here, says Jagbir Dama. His family has been farming this land for generations.
During my father's time, we never used a lot of chemicals because the Yamuna river cut through the land. But ever since a dam was constructed, the Yamuna's water no longer reached the farm.
With their soil deprived of nutrients from the river water, many farmers now use chemical fertilizers to support plant growth and keep pests at bay. A study by the Center of Environment shows that more than 60% of the soil around Delhi is degraded. It is no longer possible to use natural farming methods here.
We could clearly see that a majority of the soil samples were deficient in macronutrient and micronutrients, and organic carbon is decreasing. It is very low now. And because soil does not have enough nutrient, so food produced in that soil will also not have enough nutrient.
But more and more people in Delhi want organically produced fruits and vegetables. At the same time, farmers need to be able to live off their land, and for that, it needs to be healthy and fertile. That conviction is the basis of Urban Farms, a social enterprise determined to rethink farming with the help of traditional practices.
We know that the microbiome or the microbiology plays a big role in immunity as well as nutrition supply. And this has been the journey of Urban Farms. When we moved into regenerative agriculture, so as Nandi for the last 20 plus years, we've been doing chemical-free organic agriculture as such. But as we started dwelling into the science of it, we kind of married traditional practices with the visibility of modern science and tried to kind of optimize it to a model that small farmers can use in this country.
It all centers around a high-quality compost which Urban Farms produces itself from the harvest waste supplied by local farms. Rice stubble, which would normally be burnt in the fields, is composted along with banana leaves and vegetable waste. And then, just like in traditional farming, it needs regular watering and turning.
What we see is that your soil is able to create your fungi, and your microbiome is able to create what we refer to as secondary metabolites, which is the highest form of nutrition for plants.
Jagbir Dama has also joined Urban Farms. Since then, he says his soils have greatly improved. Instead of using chemical fertilizers like before, he now only uses organic ones.
No urea, dye, calcium,
No urea, no dye, we don't use them. Only the compost and dung from our cows and whatever medicines Urban Farms provide us with.
Representatives from Urban Farms are here to inspect how Jagbir's plot is coming along. Using an app called Farmitopia, they are able to log crop details, monitor fields, and predict crop outcomes. This tool is also set to aid in cultivation techniques and help farmers adopt regenerative farming practices.
2 or 3 days I visited this field there was an attack of flea beetles and diamond moth bag. At that time, I recommend farmer to spray Daman and Mahast 5 ml and plus 5 gram per liter of water, and the alternatively spray of neem oil as well. So he did the spray of Daman and Mahast, and I can see that the control of flea beetles and diamond moth bag.
Each urban farm center provides support to farmers within roughly a 20-kilometer radius. Farmers can also deliver their produce here. Sonu Kumar has a farm close by, and he has brought 900 kilos of carrots with him. By depositing them here at urban farms, he no longer needs to travel long distances to markets, nor does he have to involve costly middlemen.
Here, there's barely any cost. It's 10 minutes away. I come directly from the farm and drop the produce here.
From here, it goes straight to the wholesalers. Urban Farms is now one of the leading suppliers of organic fruit and vegetables in the Delhi area. Whether beetroots, tomatoes, or cabbage, their products cost around 3 times more than those on the normal market. But that's not a problem for customers at this shop, says its owner.
There is genuine demand in the city. If you can guarantee customers traceability and authenticity, there is demand. However, people don't necessarily buy organic produce for a long period. They are also price conscious.
long time तक नहीं लेते एक point पे आके they are customer मतलब customer is price conscious.
Customers tend to be people who have small kids at home and want to feed them pure food. People with health issues and people with deep pockets who can afford it. About 20% are middle upper class people who want to have healthy food.
ठीक है, they are medium upper class, but they want to have healthy food.
Jagbir Dama is pleased that he has made the shift. His old way of farming resulted in smaller yields and higher costs.
हाँ जी हाँ लागत में भी फर्क है क्योंकि हमारे जो
The chemical fertilizers are expensive. The pesticides, dye, urea are expensive. Right now, the dye would cost somewhere around 1,400 rupees. That's 15 euros. But now I save that expense. And I save on urea and chemical fertilizers as well.
से तो कोई नीचे नहीं है दवाई डालने वाली तो अब उनसे सबसे पहला छूट रहा है हमारा.
And on top of all of this, the farmers say their produce tastes much better than it did a few years ago.
When we speak of sustainability, an important aspect is also the jobs that this sector generates. The International Labour Organization defines green jobs as decent jobs that help restore or preserve the environment. India can create up to 35 million such jobs by 2047, says a report. As an example, let's head to Chennai to meet a team of women who are earning respect while making a living for themselves and also keeping their city clean and inspiring others along the way.
These women are part of a team, India's first all-women waste management team. And they're proud of what they do. As waste collectors, supervisors, drivers, and managers. Together, they handle the refuse of an entire Chennai neighborhood. In a country where formal garbage collection is dominated by men, the women here are challenging gender disparity.
Every job has its own difficulties. Rain or shine, I do my job well. This job has given me so much peace of mind. I have the confidence that I can face life and fend for myself because I have this job.
The mother of two is dedicated to her work, despite the stigma that comes with the job. Her mother, she says, refuses to visit her now. On her rounds, she frequently needs to remind residents to stick to segregation rules.
If residents don't separate their garbage properly, it makes it harder for us to do our job. Sometimes, people will put diapers in with all the other waste. That's extra work for us. But then, I feel really happy when I see people making the effort to segregate properly on their own.
Mary previously worked in a range of jobs, including as a carpenter and in the construction industry. All hard labor with no job security. The pandemic abruptly ended her stint as a nanny in Switzerland. When she returned, the stability of a job in the formal waste sector came as a welcome break. Recruiting an all-women team was easier than expected for the private contractor in charge.
Initially, we were told that we will not be able to hire this many women in this line of work. Once we were able to hire, we were told that we will not be able to train them to drive these vehicles. And once we were able to drive them, then the actual magic happened. The training resulted in a 400-strong team in the Manali zone of Chennai, emerging as one of the best performing municipal solid waste collection team in the entire country.
Mary also collects waste from vendors.
They are prompt and pick up the vegetables that are no longer good to sell every day. If they didn't show up, I would have to keep all the spoiled vegetables in the shop. I wouldn't know what to do with them. I don't have any other option.
Local residents also appreciate the reliable service that Mary and her team provide to the neighborhood.
If they didn't collect waste from us every day, our houses would start stinking. We often don't have time to do it. We should respect people who provide such an essential service.
While women like Mary are breaking barriers, statistics show they are still far from the norm. India's recent census revealed a steady decline in women's participation in the workforce. Many upper and middle class women quit the labor force after marriage. And among India's poor, the work women perform often doesn't count as labor.
What is shocking in our country is that disproportionately larger numbers of women are not in what we call as the labor force and not also in the workforce. So that is one part of the story. But the other thing that feminists are saying is that the statistics in our country is not really capturing what women are doing and not considering that as work, because they're saying that the census has to be comparable across all countries in the world.
In 2021, the share of women in India's labor force was 23%. That's one of the lowest figures in the world and well below the international average of 47%. Mary lost her husband just before the pandemic. She says her job gave her the strength to get through bleak times. And it's given her the financial security as a widow to secure a brighter future for her 2 children.
Now my first daughter is married and my second daughter is in 11th grade, thanks to this job.
A green job that's proving to be a way forward for Chennai and its environment.
Speaking of jobs, here is something that generates thousands of jobs here in India: jute. Exports of the natural fiber as well as products made from it amounted to over $250 million in the last year, and this number is on the rise. Bags, rugs, yarn. What's the appeal? Our reporter hit the ground to find out more about what is touted as one of the most environmentally friendly and sustainable fabric on the planet.
Rugs, slippers and bags, all made from jute, a natural fiber. So far, so nice. But jute also has great ecological potential. For example, jute totes as an alternative to plastic bags. Or in the packaging industry, jute sacks can replace plastic ones. Plus, jute requires less energy to process than cotton.
We are talking about the green and clean environment entire world. Now the time is coming again to adopt the natural fibers, which is biodegradable, environment friendly and natural, and which is the good substitute of the plastics and synthetics.
However, there are huge challenges, even for India, the world's largest jute producer. More than 370,000 people across India are directly employed in the industry. It provides a livelihood for some 4 million farm families. Guna Chandra Deuri, a farmer from Assam, has been growing jute for nearly a decade.
Planting and harvesting jute is a big deal and a huge responsibility. And it takes money every step of the way. From the time we plant the jute till the time it gets harvested.
After it's harvested, the jute is soaked in water for 2 weeks, a process called retting. That's because the jute fibers must be extracted from the stem of the plant. It's labor-intensive work, for which farmers often need extra help.
The problem is that we can't get laborers when we need them. They migrate and the weather doesn't help much of the time. So we have to get it harvested within a day. But it's hard to find laborers. Their wages are increasing while production is falling in comparison. There are lots of challenges like these.
The Central Research Institute for Jute and Allied Fibers studies these challenges and tries to come up with solutions.
We can minimize the labor requirement as well as expenditure by utilizing the mechanized tools like, seed drill, the weeder, as well as the power rebunner.
Jute requires the humid tropical climate of the monsoon season to grow. If the rains fail to arrive on time, both the quantity and the quality of the harvest suffer.
In the last 5 years, I have noticed a decline in jute production in different locations. Some of the plants don't survive exceptionally heavy rains.
Heavier downpours over shorter intervals are a result of climate change. Jute growers are trying to adapt.
We have to utilize the high quality, high yielding varieties of jute seeds which has been developed recently, which has high yield potential and also land specific and climate specific.
The Kamarhati Jute factory in Kolkata is one of Asia's biggest. It operates 24 hours a day, nearly year-round. Every day, hundreds of workers labor in a vast hall to produce the twine used to make rice sacks, jute bags, and other products. Santosh Mishra is the mill manager. He says demand for jute is growing, but the industry faces a shortage of workers. Health and safety protections are often lax. Add to that the heat, dust, and noise, and he says working conditions in the jute industry are not attractive to young people.
This is where we convert the jute fibers into fabric. It's a tough process. Workers endure conditions that are hard to imagine. It's really hot inside the factory and the work is not easy.
Concerned about the labor crunch, he believes India's jute factories need to invest heavily to upgrade their machinery. Jute has been cultivated in the country for centuries. The warm and humid climate of the Ganges Delta is ideal for this crop. Exports dipped in 2023 after steady gains in the 3 preceding years. Just outside Kolkata, hundreds of manufacturing units are springing up to meet growing global demand for jute. By 2023, the Indian jute bag market was worth over $280 million. This manufacturer exports to more than 50 countries across 5 continents, mostly to Europe. It's already modernized its machinery. The head of the company says such efforts are essential.
We are preserving the planet for the future of our children. We are saving the planet from hazards of plastic pollution. We are making the world greener.
The government is incentivizing jute production, providing subsidies and developing higher yielding varieties of jute. Today, Gourango Kaur of the Research Institute for Jute is meeting a group of students. He hopes to convince them of jute's huge potential.
Jute is actually such a crop that it can fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and within 120 days it can absorb 15 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare.
Jute's the fabric for heavy-duty jobs, whether storage sacks, shopping totes, or door curtains. And though its forays into fashion may still be rare,
the market potential is huge.
From jute workshops, let's head to the fields of Spain where the sun shines bright. Solar energy is a big business in Spain. In fact, several huge tracts of land in the countryside across Spain have been turned into photovoltaic fields to generate more solar power. Sounds great, right? But actually, several Spaniards are unhappy with these developments. Let's find out why.
Ángel Eterovich lives in one of Spain's sunniest regions with his wife and horses. But he is concerned because that same sun has attracted industry to Tabernas in Andalusia. A huge solar park has recently been built next to his estate, or finca.
We moved out of the city into the countryside, and now they are building these solar arrays around us, real industrial zones, right next to our house.
And more are planned. Spain wants to produce green energy from its abundant sunshine. That's good for the climate, but threatens Angel's plans. He wants to start a riding therapy center here.
It has to be a nice, pleasant place for people to spend the day. But if people don't want to come, we'll have to give up on our project.
For others, the solar cells represent economic growth. After tourism collapsed during the COVID pandemic, Mayor José Díaz is happy for every cent invested.
Many have lost their jobs in these hard times. Now, through these building projects, some have been able to get back into the job market.
Now, olive groves are being clear-cut to make way for solar plants. Some farmers have seized the opportunity to lease or sell their land to the energy companies. Nicolae Octan has signed over some of his land because water is increasingly scarce and expensive. Irrigation no longer pays off.
Nothing grows here without water, so we're trying to get at least something out of our land.
More than 200 Spanish citizens' initiatives are sounding the alarm and fighting the solar fields. Luis Boloño and others fear that Spain will become Europe's power supplier at the people's expense.
If huge solar fields are built here, with all their environmental and social impacts, it will mainly provide economic growth and jobs elsewhere, not here. That's not fair. Spain is being colonized and exploited.
There are other ways, like 50 kilometers away in Almocita. The village has built a photovoltaic plant atop their small theater to produce their own electricity. Mayor Francisco García proudly explains the creation of an energy community, backed by an EU regional development fund.
Everything we produce here stays in our community. We don't want to sell our energy to the big companies. We want affordable, climate-friendly electricity for all our citizens.
The plant currently powers 21 households, with businesses and restaurants expected to come on board. But Luis Boloño says Spain is focusing too much on large-scale projects. The state is giving solar cell companies free rein instead of ensuring that they build on derelict industrial sites.
The same capacity can be achieved without destroying the environment, but there's no planning.
Solar arrays where trees once stood. Horse lover Ángel Eterovich still cannot understand it.
You can't destroy the environment in the name of environmental protection. It makes no sense.
For Angel, the rampant growth of the solar fields defeats its purpose. He hopes that future projects will be more environmentally friendly, such as in nearby Almocita, so that green electricity is really green.
We started this episode speaking of balance, and we're ending it with the realization that if not done right, then there also might be too much of even a good thing. Let us know what would you like to see more of on this show. You can email us or reach out to me directly on my social media. I will see you next week. Until then, take care. Goodbye. Namaskar.